Amen. My motto is give credit when credit is due. And the NBA did their thing. I don't want to be dramatic. I don't want to over exaggerate. But I think today was my favorite Christmas Day slate of games of all time. Today did not disappoint. Every single game from start to finish was must see TV. There's usually, throughout the history of my viewing experience, uh, a middle part or even a beginning or ending of the basketball games on Christmas where it feels like you can relax. It feels like you can get away from the TV. It feels like, oh, I can miss this game, or the first two early games are the ones, and then the rest of the day is kind of whatever. Today, I never saw an opportunity to say that's enough or to take my attention and place it elsewhere. And all of the talk prior to today's games was how much the NBA kind of dropped the ball and what are we doing? Giannis had his comments, rightfully so, about his team not playing. There was a lot of talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder not having a game with the team that they have. And again, rightfully so. I don't think any of those teams or players should feel in the wrong for thinking that they deserve a spot to play on Christmas Day. But with those good points and why they should feel that way, you can't deny what today was. And the first game, my Knicks versus Spurs, 11 o'clock game. We getting the games cracking extremely early. And again, having a guy like Victor Wembanyama playing Madison Square Garden on Christmas Day is already a must-see TV type of moment. But to then get him to deliver, right? Because if you look from a standings and a wins-loss perspective, the New York Knicks are a significantly better basketball team. But Victor Wembanyama, being the star that he is, the young star, but he's still emerging in a sense of developing and growing his game as a complete player. But his star appeal is here. He is here. He is ready. And today was like the final nail in the coffin of saying, I am Showtime. I am box office. I am must see TV on these days. And I was already a fan of the Spurs and what they had going on, but I left today saying, man, I pray and hope that this team can stay healthy, and I hope they can continue to compete and have some type of way of competing for a playoff spot. This is the exact type of young team that I would love to see in the play-in, fighting and putting on a show and making the play-in much more entertaining and hopefully breaking through to be able to be on that playoff stage. Because when you have a guy like Victor Wembanyama at his size and with the stat line of 42 points, 18 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocks while shooting 6 of 16 from the three-point line. When you have a guy doing that at a 7'4", 7'5" frame, anything is possible against any team. Understand me. Anything is possible against any team. So yes, I would love to see this team in the playoffs. You have a veteran point guard and Chris Paul, who, again, he just his mindset and his IQ gives this team a chance to compete on a nightly basis. And we saw it today in this game. There was a lot of plays where I feel like Chris Paul did a hell of a job of manipulating the pick and roll and taking advantage of Karl-Anthony Towns for Vic and others to get extremely easy baskets. And time again, we've seen through this early part of the season, Chris Paul has made big plays and taken and make big shots for this team down the stretch as well. And I think the combination of young talent that they have around Vic has been extremely impressive throughout this early part of the season. Stephon Castle, who I've been talking about since the draft cycle of last year began, like that, to me, he is a guy that I feel like whatever your question marks was, he was going to figure it out and he was going to find a way to be a productive winning player. And early on in his rookie campaign, Stephon Castle is showing he knows how to be a valuable, productive basketball player that's going to produce wins. Is he going to be a 40% three-point shooter? A lot of people had questions about the consistency in his jump shot. Who knows? Maybe not. Probably not. You know what I mean? Is he a point guard, a shooting guard, a wing? What is he? Who cares? When he is on the floor, your team is going to have a better chance to win. He's going to defend. He can make plays with the basketball as a high-level IQ basketball player. He's only going to grow that IQ learning and playing every day next to Chris Paul. He can play in transition. He can make plays in a half court. He's going to continue to get more comfortable with the pick and roll game. And occasionally he's going to have the nights where he can knock down 2 or 3 catch and shoot opportunities from the perimeter. Even a guy like Jeremy Sohan. Jeremy Sohan is an incredible cutter. He's an incredible basketball player who can also make plays. He can be a screener. He's going to bring a certain level of intensity as a defender and as a teammate. He's going to talk. He's going to be active. He brings a certain character and personality to the team. You got Devin Vassell. I love this basketball team and how they compete. And I think Mitch Johnson deserves a lot of praise and a lot of credit for stepping in while Pop gets himself together. And I left this game obviously happy that my Knicks was able to pull it off and pull it out and get a win. I think we've won, they said, 16 of our last 19 games. We're rolling. We're a few games behind the Celtics for that second seed. Obviously a tall mountain to climb because the Celtics are going to continue to pile up wins, and they're an incredible basketball team themselves. But to get this performance and to pull it out against a young, hungry Spurs team who were driven to ruin Christmas Day in the Garden. You can see the energy. You can see the competitive spirit on the floor. They made timely shots. Everybody stepped up for them. And I just love the appeal of their team. And I think they're handling the Vic era the right way. Everything they've done so far in the year and this quarter of a second year has been incredible. They talk so highly about Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes and how much they've been able to lead them as professional vets and high IQ basketball players. You can see the value of that. And I think it should wake up the rest of the NBA, who sometimes doesn't seem to understand the importance of having veteran players. And I think the Spurs nailed it on the head because they have veterans in the locker room, but they also have veterans that can play. I think that's a big difference. Having a veteran presence in the locker room is one thing, but there's a different relatability you can get and experience you can also attain from being able to be on the floor with a Chris Paul and a Harrison Barnes. And again, Mikal, shout out to Mikal. To give my Knicks some love, 41 points. This is a game that I think he needed to see. He's been killing all December long, but just to have this staple game in his core memory, to be able to shush the haters. There was so much talk about Mikal and his jump shot and all of these different things. The Knicks gave up that many picks for this guy and all of that. This was so refreshing to see for his psyche. And going forward, I think he's going to be able to always go back to this game because that's the reality of a guy like Mikal Bridges, right? His role is one of those roles where there's going to be extreme highs and there's going to be extreme lows. The reality is he is a guy that is paid the way he's paid and he's going to get paid. And he's a guy that commanded that many draft picks because more often than not, he lies in between the two middles of those extremes. He's a very consistent player who allows himself to consistently be on the floor, and he defends and plays both sides of the floor. So we need him to stay in that consistency part and continue to give us the shooting that he's doing in December and some of these spurts of leading us in scoring and whatnot with the intensity on defense, stepping up in the second half of the season. But it's always good for a player like him to see he can have a 41-point night. You know what I mean? It ain't removed from Brooklyn because all of a sudden he's in a new setting. And again, my favorite thing about this win ultimately as a Knicks fan is the fact that we did it together. You know what I mean? He leads us in the scoring department, but Karl-Anthony Towns made plays. Got to stay out of foul trouble, Cat. Another game with 5 fouls. Jalen Brunson obviously made plays. You have OG guarding Vic down the stretch. You had Josh Hart with 2 key offensive rebounds to end up closing out the game and making sure we won it. He hit a big 3-point shot. Miles McBride hit a big 3-point shot in that second half. This was an ultimate team effort. And I think that's where we're going to be dangerous. We're going to be able to score points, but we want to be able to get timely stops, and we want to be able to rely on each other to get games done and won. Because in the playoffs, teams are going to do exactly what the Pacers tried to do. They're going to put size on Jalen Brunson. They're going to make it tough for him. They're going to go at Karl-Anthony Towns in the playoffs on the defensive side of the basketball, and we're going to need Josh Hart to continue to have the season he's having. I'm going to do a Josh Hart video in a day or so. I was going to drop it today, but these games were so good that we got to push it back. But yeah, ultimately the Knicks got to continue to play as a unit and make sure that there is not a avenue or any type of situation where a team can exploit us by removing a guy or two and forcing others to beat beat them. OG should be able to be ready to knock down shots if a team dares him to win us a game. Mikal should be able to have a performance like this if a team is daring him to shoot the ball and beat them. And I cannot wait to see us continue to grow. Whatever potential moves we have at the deadline are going to be exciting and whatnot. But ultimately, by far, probably the most exciting game of the day. And that's a huge praise and huge sign. But to have two 40-point performances in the first game at 11 o'clock in Madison Square Garden, the brightest lights in the NBA, this was a great tone setter for Christmas. The following game, the Timberwolves, man. For the last game, too, for the Knicks and Spurs, 15-5 turnover battle. The Spurs turned the ball over 15 times. We were able to get them to cough the ball up while we were able to protect the ball and only had 5 turnovers for the entirety of the game. That's very, very huge. And then also the offensive rebounding, which was a big staple for us all of last playoffs on the run we went on. And I was so worried about this because we don't have Mitch right now, and we lost iHeart. Those guys were monsters on the offensive glass. But in a game like today, with a guy like Vic, we were still able to dominate the offensive glass, winning that battle 17-8. And if we can continue to do that, we're going to see a lot of success. Moving on, Timberwolves, Mavericks. This was the game where it felt like it was going to get to the point I talked about in the intro, where it's like, okay, I can start focusing on my gifts. I could help somebody put a gift together. I could eat. I can get distracted. I might even, today we also had the NFL. I know a lot of people was dibbling and dabbling, going back and forth. This was there for a second, right? So we first get Luka's injury with the calf strain or whatever. That was a very, very tough to see. You never want to see a guy like Luka, have to exit a game, especially on Christmas at home. He is the reason we're turning on the TV in the first place. So to see him, leave, that was very disheartening. And that was already the start of being like, oh, man, it's some bullshit. Then the Timberwolves were already playing well when Luka was there. They already had a decent amount of a lead. And they began to grow the lead and grow the lead and grow the lead. And I felt myself kind of, venturing off. But because I am a Kyrie stan, basically, at this point, I continued to watch. And I saw him making shot after shot. Never enough for me to be like, hey, man, they coming back. But it was enough to kind of just make me say, yeah, if anything, I'm going to get a nice Kyrie performance tonight. And I remember seeing him make shot after shot, play after play, and it didn't really seem like the lead was changing. The Timberwolves are coming right back and answering. You know what I mean? Conley hit a floater shot over here. Julius Randle hit a fall-away mid-range there. And it was like, it's one of these games where Kyrie is trying to start a run, but the Timberwolves have an answer on every single offensive possession. Then out of nowhere, you start to see that lead chop down. Again, I'm watching the game and I'm seeing little Kyrie moves, but I'm also kind of in my phone. I'm tweeting. I'm exchanging gifts with my family. I'm opening up my gifts because I didn't open up the gifts during the Knicks game because it got so good. And before I know it, I'm turning back and it's an 18-point lead. And it's like, okay. Then you look back and it's a 14-point lead. Then it's a 12-point lead. Oh, then the Timberwolves score. Now it's back to 14. Oh, there's a 3. It's an 11-point lead. And it's like, man, if they get this below single digits, I'm glued in. And before you know it, boom, it's single digits. And this was a really incredible fourth quarter from the Mavericks, in my opinion, because like the Knicks, I've seen a lot of different guys step up and make plays. I've seen Quentin Grimes hit a big three-point shot. I saw P.J. Washington have a big defensive block on Anthony Edwards. I saw some good rebounding from Maxi Kleber, who I think, did Maxi Kleber make that three or did he miss it? I can't remember. Derek Lively had some moments. And then obviously Kyrie Irving was doing as much as he could. But I love when teams are able to fight through adversity and come together as a collective and continue to fight, especially when losing a guy like Luka. I felt like the Mavericks did a really good job for their fan base and for themselves on a Christmas game stage because they could have mailed it in. They easily could have been like, all right, we're already down 20, 28. We don't have Luka, our best player's out. We have that excuse. Let's just throw in the towel early. But they continue to fight. They were real resilient, and they put pressure on the Timberwolves. And shout out to the Timberwolves because this would have been an epic meltdown that I think would have clouded them and an already, shaky start to the season. So I'm very proud and happy for the Timberwolves to weather that storm and find a way to prevail and pull this game out. Julius Randle was incredible. Had his mom there. It was a bit of a homecoming. He made timely shots. He had Julius Randle had like 7 assists in the first half or something like that. Near triple double for him. Anthony Edwards had some really good defensive possessions down the stretch on Kyrie when he was getting switched. I love his competitive nature and his energy. Kyrie, 39 points, 26 in the second half. And obviously, we know Ant is always going to be showtime on the offensive end. So, very big win for them. It's good to see Dante DiVincenzo knock down some shots early on in that game. Second half, in some key moments, he did miss a couple that I know he really wanted. But all in all, really good win for the Timberwolves. I'm going to dial back. Good win to pull out. I don't want to say really good win because whenever you blow a 28-point lead, there's a little bit of worriness there. You have to acknowledge that, but still a win that I think that they needed, and a win that I'm glad to see them avoid kind of messing up, because again, that would have really clouded them. Next, 76ers versus Celtics. Again, going into this game extremely kind of shaken off in the wrong way, right? So I'm watching the Mavericks game, or the Mavericks game finally ends or whatever, and I get this update on TV that Joel Embiid, he's warming up and he done fell into the security and he done twisted his ankle. So I'm like, man, here we go with this shit. Nothing to do with Joel Embiid, you know what I mean? It's not his fault, but it just kind of feels like something is always following him. And I'm like, man, we just lost Luka, you know what I mean, and to the game. And now it's like, we're going to go in here. There's already no Drew Holiday playing. And I'm like, and it said Joel was going to play. And I kind of felt bad because in my mind, I seen him roll his ankle. So I didn't know how severe the ankle roll was. Did it swell up? But I knew Joel was going to play because I can only imagine his mind of being like, man, if I don't play and they got video of this happening, they're going to eat me alive on Twitter. Like, they're going to eat me alive. I already missed a boatload of time. Then I came back and I had the nasal thing, injury or whatever. And now this on Christmas Day against the Celtics. So I felt like he was going to play regardless, but I was a little skeptical because I didn't want him to be half of himself and not have a good performance. But, hey, Joel Embiid, that was not an ankle swell up or anything. It seemed like he was fine. 27-9. He had 4 threes. Tyrese Maxey, 33-12. Caleb Martin hates the Celtics. If I'm a Celtic fan, whenever I see Caleb Martin coming, I'm turning the other way. He's the boogeyman. He came in today in TD Garden, hit 7 threes for 23 points. Extremely big for them. One of the key things that I love about this win for the 76ers is they made every single free throw. They made 19 out of 19 free throws. And you look at a Boston team who left 5 free throws on the board and you lose by 4. I hate to say that because it's very hard to go out and make every single free throw attempt. It's very hard and challenging to do, but it always stings a little bit when you look at those missed opportunity free points, and you look at it and every point that you left would have won you the game. That hurts. And Tatum had an incredible performance, 32-12. But shout out to the 76ers. I think you have to credit them. This was like a key win. This is probably one of the better wins, or if not the best win for them this season. You didn't have the game you wanted from Paul George, but you still had Embiid and Maxey, and you had support, right? The Caleb Martin game is what you hope on a consistent basis could be what Paul George gives you as the gap between the guard and the big. But the main thing that was super impressive to me is they were able to allow the Celtics, or not allow, but force the Celtics into having 13 turnovers. The Celtics are usually and typically a team that controls the basketball and protects it very well and shoots the 3 ball. That's why they're so dangerous. You can't turn them over. They're going to shoot a bunch of threes. They're going to make a ton, and they have versatility on the defensive side of the basketball where 1 through 4 can switch. And then you got Porzingis, who is swatting shit left and right. That was also scary when he kind of stumbled up and hurt himself at the beginning of the game. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is some bullshit. But yeah, the forced 13 turnovers on the Celtics to go into their home, which is very hard to win in, especially on Christmas, even with no Drew Holiday. The last thing the 76ers want to hear is somebody being missing. They know too well what it's like to miss multiple people. So they could give a damn about you guys missing Drew Holiday. That was an incredible win for the 76ers, and hopefully something that can start to build some momentum for them as they continue to creep up and up the standings slowly, quietly, but surely, because we want to see them in the playoffs. The Lakers versus the Warriors. Same thing, man. We go Luka, we got the Embiid scare, and then we come into this game, and 7 minutes into the game, Anthony Davis gets hurt. Super, super sad to see that because he's been as available as much as he's been in his entire career this year, and you love to see that from Anthony Davis. And the Lakers are in a place right now where they just can't afford to play too many games without him. Luckily, they were able to escape the comeback that the Warriors were trying to put on in the fourth quarter. Austin Reeves, phenomenal. He's been phenomenal for them all season long. 26, 10, and 10. Game-winning layup on Andrew Wiggins, a scoop layup. Brilliant basketball. He made some incredible shots. Rui Hachimura giving him 5 3-point shots was super, super big, something that I did not expect to see. But everybody else outside of him and Austin Reeves and LeBron, they really couldn't make 3-point shots. Max Christie gave you 2 3-point shots. I love the minutes and things that I saw from him. Cam Reddish had a few good possessions defensively on Steph Curry, which is all you can really ask for because Steph Curry is going to be Steph Curry. But ultimately, I love what the Lakers did, and I love one of those combinations of lineups where it was Austin Reeves and some second unit guys, and they looked pretty good and pretty solid. And I like that rotation from JJ. I believe it was Koloko, Austin Reeves. I think Gabe Vincent was out there, Cam Reddish, and maybe Dalton Knecht or something like that. Not the greatest on paper or anything, but they played well, I felt like, and was able to hold it down while LeBron was able to get some rest. But we're hoping that Anthony Davis can return and that Austin Reeves can continue to play like this. But LeBron versus Steph, to see both of these guys live up to that, to see all of the pregame interviews and all the talks about, embracing that the end is near. And it's as much as we are aware, it's always crazy to hear these guys talk about it and acknowledge it. And I'm happy for them that they are. LeBron said in the post game, it's nothing wrong with accepting that this is where we are. And I'm just very fortunate as a fan of the game to see these two guys wear that on their sleeves and understand that and continue to give us these moments. Because last year moment was incredible as well. They redo it and give us this moment. Steph Curry with 38 points, 8 3-point shots, and LeBron with 31 and 10. I mean, you can't really ask for more. And to understand where these guys are in their career with the mileage at these age is kind of crazy, when you really think about it. And I think they are revolutionizing the game and setting a new standard. Before them, guys were at this age, they were done. Some of our favorite players in the history of the game, especially in my era of the 2000s, the 90s babies, what we grew up on, we didn't see a lot of our stars age gracefully into their late 30s. You know what I mean? This is around a time where those guys are literally out of the league. A lot of our stars from the mid-2000s, they kind of went into bench roles and kind of team hopped for the last 4 or 5 seasons of their career. You think about somebody like Tracy McGrady, and you have the memories of the Pistons and the Knicks and the Spurs, and it's like that's typically what it looked like. But to see these guys kind of, make it look like this is what it's supposed to be, and this is what it looks like when you're dedicated to the game and to the craft. And not to say that anybody from the 2000s wasn't dedicated. I don't want to put that out there, but they are an example of getting out whatever you put in. And all of the rumors for all of the decades of LeBron putting $1 million into his body each offseason, you got to start to believe shit like that. You know what I mean? You got to start to believe shit like that. They know what they're doing. They're maximizing their bodies, and they continue to give us these type of performances. And I'm extremely grateful because, like LeBron said, we just don't know how many of these we have left. And it sucks to really think about it, but I think, like myself, the rest of the basketball community, we have to acknowledge it. We have to, because when you take those two guys off this stage and we take away that game, and you start to look around where the last game we got a Kevin Durant who's aging gracefully as well. You remove some of these guys, and we don't have that same star power. We don't have that same appeal. We don't have rivalries anymore. So we have to make sure that we appreciate every last moment that we're getting from these two guys, especially when we're fortunate enough to see them clash and meet up. But an incredible game. Shout out to the Warriors for fighting and competing. And Kuminga, that might be poster of the year. Like, my goodness, that dunk was crazy. And then the last game, the Nuggets versus Suns. All due respect to the Suns. Great win for them to beat a Nuggets team without Devin Booker. But this is probably the most boring and worst game. This is the game that I decided to leave and come home, leave my mom's house. It was also the latest game. Obviously, I'm recording this video, like I said, during midnight. So it came late into the game. But it had its moments. The Nuggets, a game like this makes me realize how much they are going to need to make a move. They really look good on paper. They have the continuity from all of the years and whatever, but there is a move out there that they need to make. This offense was extremely stagnant outside of the first quarter. They had like a 30-point first quarter, and the rest of the game and the rest of the quarters, they really couldn't make much shake like they did in the first quarter. And I think in the second half, they combined in third and fourth quarter for 44 points. You scored 13 more points in an entire half than you did the first quarter. And, they shot the ball extremely bad. And it ain't like the Suns shot the ball that great either. The Suns shot about 30% from three. That's a game that you want to be able to take advantage of win. Kevin Durant, 0-5 from three tonight. He put up 27 points. Beal gave you 27 points, was really good in that second half and fourth quarter. Jokic gives you 25 and 15. Jamal Murray just didn't have that feel. It just wasn't there for him today. Same with Aaron Gordon. Russ gave you some punch off the bench. These are things that you want to take advantage of. But 16 turnovers and 27% from three is just not going to cut it. Even against a Suns team who is, as good as they are, they're not the top echelon of the Western Conference right now. And, it just further shows that the Zach LaVine thing may be needed. A game like this shows me why they need Zach LaVine, a punch on the offense, a guy who can step up and give you a little bit of what you used to expect from Jamal Murray. Not saying Jamal Murray is done totally, but so far during the season and some of the playoff games, or a lot of the playoffs outside of the 2-game winners last year, you kind of find yourself looking for more. And the injuries may have taken a toll on Jamal. And because of that, you kind of need another shot creator who can put pressure on defenses from the perimeter while still being able to play off of with Jokic. And Zach LaVine is the guy who lines up, to me, for that role perfectly. So, big win for the Suns yet again, I should say. Very big win for them. A win it feels like that they really desperately needed. And it's always good to get a home win. Royce O'Neal, Tyus Jones, all type of guys made plays for them tonight. And again, we walk away with that being the boring or worst game of the night. They won by 10 points. And I think you can wrap up Christmas saying that the NBA did a hell of a job. Again, feel no way about the Bucks and Thunder, feeling disrespected, feeling slighted, feeling like they belong. I agree. You can't really disagree or argue with that. But again, like I started off the video saying, I'm a guy who gives credit when credit is due. And boy, did the NBA deliver. This, again, if I get more time to reflect and think, if this isn't my number one, it is for sure my number two. It is for sure my number two. Because like I said, we are used to having that one game, whether it's early or late. You may get a second one, and then you have some type of time in between where you get to be with your family and just remove yourself from basketball. Today, I did not have too many moments where I was able to remove myself completely from the game. And because of that, I thank you, NBA. I thank you, Adam Silver, and I'm looking forward to next year. As always, I appreciate y'all. I hope everyone had an incredible Merry Christmas. I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'm out. Peace.